AppleChat Healthcare's latest webinar on our nurse recruitment series. I hope everyone's having a good day and looking forward to an interesting discussion about nurse recruitment and in particular about using employee referrals to source and hire more hospital nurses. So we're just getting live here and we're going to wait for some more folks to join in. So want to just welcome everyone and get everyone settled in for a conversation. So my name is Patrick Thiele. I'm Chief Operating Officer at AppleChat Healthcare, and I want to mention a couple of things while we get started. First of all, if you haven't already joined our Nurse Recruitment Secret Facebook group, please do. We'll put the comments in the comments. We will put the link so you can join that, or you can search on Facebook Nurse Recruitment Secrets. And also, if you can search me out on LinkedIn, I'll put that in the comments as well, and connect if we haven't already, so that we can make sure to tell you about future webinars that we will be hosting on nurse recruitment. So we're still waiting for some folks to join. And I don't know if you could pick up that the feedback running in the background. So I'll try to mute that. Yeah, that was from the YouTube feed. Okay, so we are joined today by Adam Chambers, our president of AppleChat, and our special guest is Melissa Babin. Melissa is an RN in Virginia. She joined us last time in July. She joined us for our webinar on how to recruit new grad nurses, and she was so popular we needed to have her back. So I will perhaps let her introduce herself once we get started. And again, today's topic is nurse recruitment. On nurse recruitment is about using employee referrals to source and hire more hospital nurses. We're going to discuss the importance of the retention of staff, the best incentives for referrals at the unit and system levels, and the unique ways of adding value to positions. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam Chambers, again, who's the president of AppleChat Healthcare, and let him get started with our conversation.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to remove you from the stream. See you later. Thanks for that, Patrick. So yeah, welcome along, everybody. Thanks for coming. Melissa, could you first introduce yourself to newcomers here?
Yes, thank you. As Patrick mentioned, my name is Melissa. I'm in Virginia as a bedside nurse. That I also am a part of my health system's recruitment and retention program at the system level. I work mainly with new graduate nurses, but as we have seen worldwide, really struggle with keeping and maintaining nurses in the workforce, particularly at the bedside in hospitals. My role has kind of expanded into really just filling the positions at the bedside, or trying to help in that way. So when Patrick and Adam requested that I join again after a lovely experience last month, I was happy to kind of offer my insight on how we can get more nurses based off of referrals in creative ways.
Mm-hmm. So the impetus for me wanting to do this with you was last time you told us about a nurse over in North Carolina who joined Duke, was it?
Yes.
Or UNC Health. Could you maybe repeat that anecdote so everyone can really understand the gravity and importance of using referrals?
Right. So on the unit that I still am working on, we had a nurse who it actually was her husband who got a job at Duke Healthcare, and so she just happened to follow alongside and moved to be a nurse at Duke, and she stayed with the same patient population, which is neuroscience patients. And she kept in touch, and we were all very friendly with her still. And when some of the nurses or nursing aides heard about what kind of experience she was having at Duke, the amount of resources and support that she was experiencing from the higher ups in administration really blew people away, or blew them out of the water. And Duke kind of build up a reputation amongst the nurses that worked on our unit just based off of what Sperry, that nurse that moved, had been telling us. And we had two nurses, one who was already a nurse and had some experience on our floor. She left and joined Sperry, and then a new graduate who was a nursing aide on our unit, or certified nursing assistant. Once they graduated out of their nursing program, we were hoping they would stay with us, but since they had heard such wonderful things about the program at Duke, they went right alongside. So it really is a statement to what just good word of mouth and referrals will do for you. From this one nurse, they got 2 others.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, and imagine if you could do that for like all your nurses, just multiply them by 3. That's why we're doing this conversation. So if anybody's using like an organized referral scheme, please put a 7 in the chat so we can understand what amount of healthcare recruitment teams are actually thinking about this in a strategic way. I have an idea that it's not as many as should be, and Melissa, that's why I hope you're able to bring people some knowledge and insight so they can start their journey of doing it. So the first point that you said you'd be able to talk about would be some of the like the importances behind retention and how that relates to referrals. Could you talk about that for a little bit?
Right. So one big thing that we see happening is once we do get people in the door, whether they are travel nurses coming on an assignment, new graduates, or just experienced nurses who have moved into the area to work in our health system, is that if they come in the door and they see that, oh, well, I'm hearing chitter chatter in the break room or at the nurse's station that this nurse and that nurse are all leaving or they're all applying elsewhere. Well, I'm not going to want to stay much longer either. Especially these travel nurses that we bring in, we have an opportunity to have them extend their traveling contract with us or come back for another assignment, or maybe if they don't like that particular patient population they're working with, but they like the hospital system, we can retain them in our environment, but maybe on a different unit. So the effort that we put into retaining nurses is extremely valuable, not just because it helps us bring people and keep people in the door, but also because our nursing administrators know that the revolving door is just cash flow wasted. It's an estimation of $25,000 to $50,000 for every nurse that you have to replace. So recruitment and retention have to be 50-50. We have to put an equal amount of effort into both.
Mm-hmm. To back that up, I was doing some numbers and worked out that if you have 16 nurses permanently working compared to 16 travel nurses filling those positions, it's actually $2 million more every 2 years to staff the travel nurses. And while some of that, like you're saving some money on recruiters and benefits, that's a massive expense. And the fact that a lot of organizations are advertising travel positions shows that the cost of them is even more than that extra $2 million a year. So how can organizations that have good retention turn that into a referral channel? Because it seems like retention keeps them in. How can we build upon that and make it like a referral engine as well?
Right. So when we talk about like referral programs, some that health systems are utilizing are benefits or bonuses that are not monetary, as in, just your capital raises, but are more focused on work-life balance. So let's say, I'm getting my yearly raise based off of what the health system is allowing us to do on our performance reviews. But, as I get older, and I'm thinking about the way that my life is going to go, marriage, children, etc., I'm not going to want to keep working every other weekend or every other holiday, etc. So what we've built into the unit level systems is once I've been there for a year, well, now I don't have to work any summer holidays anymore. Or once I've worked there for 5 years, etc., no more working Christmas or no more working holidays, etc. And that's not something that you have to get approval on from, your higher ups at HR or at the system level. That's something that you can go to that nurse manager that you're working with as a recruiter and say, hey, I'm having a hard time getting applications in for your unit. a lot of people just don't want to work weekends, holidays, etc. What types of, you know, bonuses in that sense can you offer? If you already have X amount of people working weekends and you don't really need help in that area, are you able to say, well, once you've been retained for X amount of time, well, now you don't longer have to do those things that would be, considered for, the new people or the people on the low end of the totem pole to have to cover.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not familiar with the dynamic too much. Is that something that nurse managers are able to easily approve?
Right. Yes, it is, because it's up to them really, based on them making the schedule. So just to give you an idea, most of the time, the nurse manager isn't actually the one making the schedule of the nurses. There's, another person, maybe it's a clinical coordinator or a charge nurse that is making that schedule. And that is going to be different from unit to unit. It varies all across the health system. So on some units, you might find that only after a year will I be able to take a full week of summer vacation. But on other units, you only have to be there 6 months before they'll allow that. And it's based off of what they need. So if you go to the nurse manager on a unit that you're having a hard time getting people in the door of, and you say, what are your nurses saying that they feel would better their work-life balance? And keep in mind, there's no rule against you speaking to the nurses themselves. So we've actually had a recruiter come up to our unit and say, I'm noticing that a lot of nurses are leaving your unit to go to the ICU. Can we implement a pathways program? And that's a separate topic, but is similar in that it's another really great tool that, no chief of nursing at your health system has to approve. It's just something that you can work with the nurse managers on and say, a lot of nurses are leaving your unit to go to the ICU. Let's make a deal sort of in a way that says, I'm going to recruit this bedside nurse to be on the general floor unit, and she's going to stay for 2 years. And once her 2 years is up, as long as she's performed well, then we can move her to the ICU, as opposed to just the 1 year that most new graduates are staying. Most new graduates are staying just 1 year on a general floor and then leaving for the ICU.
Okay. Well, yeah, so there's flexibility there, and
right.
Recruiters actually have agency. That's interesting. Can you let me know a little bit more about what you think the best incentives are for referrals? Because I've worked with temporary staffing agencies that are offering T-shirts, all the way up to hospitals that are offering thousands of dollars as a bonus. What have you seen amongst nurses to be the best incentives?
Yeah, there's the two main incentives that my health system is putting out right now. One is capital. Of course, it's a $10,000 sign-on bonus, not just for the new nurse coming in, but the nurse that referred them gets $1,000 for each 3-month period they stay, up to a full year. So they have the potential of making, $4,000 effectively. So if that nurse stays for 3 months, they get $1,000. At the 6th month, another $1,000, etc., and so on, up to a year. And in some cases, some of our med-surg units are offering the $1,000 on a 3-month basis up to 3 years. Now, getting that amount of capital approved is difficult, of course, for some of our smaller hospital systems. So another referral bonus that I've seen is more work-life balance based. And a lot of nurses I've actually seen opting out of the money in order to take this one, and is that they are allowing nurses to either just completely make their own schedules. So if I don't want to work any nights at all, and I never want to work a weekend, I just want to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that's all I'm going to work. Or another really popular one, especially with our new grads that are graduating school together, is that they'll allow placement on the same floor, as many nurses as want. It could, a group of 5 best friends could come on, and we'll allow them to work the exact same schedule. So they can work with their best friend every single day, if they wanted to. We've seen that one be really popular as well. And then, of course, the hospital systems that have educational benefits. If you sign on and once you've worked for a year, then we'll pay for that bachelor's in nursing degree. That is always a very popular way to retain.
I'm interested in exploring the work with your friends idea, because I studied history at university, and I was really interested how in the First World War, the British government made whole regiments of friends. They were called pals regiments of people from the same town, and they all joined up because they saw the person beside them doing it. So there's something there, like psychologically. What are like your feelings behind that? What are some of the emotions that would make you want to bring in your friends and work alongside your friends?
Right. So anyone that has been on a nursing floor and has, worked as a nurse or has nurses as loved ones and has heard the way that the work is, knows that it's very fast paced most of the time. It's difficult work and it's very team based. We say it all the time on my floor that nursing is a team sport. So if you know going into your environment that you're going to have team players and buddies that are going to help you out, you're not going to drown, as they say, it is such a relief. So if I'm at home and I'm looking at the schedule and I say, oh, I have to work tomorrow. Oh, but I see that Amanda and Carrie are going to be there tomorrow. I'm really thrilled. I know I'm going to have a great day. So having the availability to work with someone that you're comfortable with goes such a long way. You're more likely to have a higher level of work satisfaction because the people that you're working with are enjoyable, of course. So a lot of times people will discuss lateral violence or, just work environments that are less than favorable, especially in the medical field when things are so fast paced. And a lot of times we see health systems kind of saving a dollar in order to by not hiring more staff, etc. So you have to rely on one another. We see a lot of people that will, like our example with Duke, jump ship once their friends have. I don't know if I mentioned it last month, but there was another time, I think this was 2 years ago, where we had a whole group of girlfriends all leave the unit. It was 9 of them. And they all left within the same summer season because it was, oh, well, Kelly went to same day surgery and I want to work with my friend. So I'm going to go down there and I'm going to work with her too. And then the others were looking around like, well, if they're not here, who am I going to have lunch with? Who am I going to hang out with? I'm going to go too. So anyone that has access to any schools of nursing in the area or any recruitment fairs, if you are seeing, ladies and gentlemen walk in together in pairs or in groups, I would be really quick to snatch that up and say, hey, we can make it so that you guys are on the same unit and we can make it so that you guys are working at least similar schedules. And then not only are they more likely to want that position because they can be there with their friend, both or all of them are more likely to stay because they have a built-in plan. Sorry, like that.
Got a special guest. You froze a bit. I hope the cat didn't chew anything. I wrote that down because no one's ever told me that. And you've given me evidence that it's working, so that's really powerful. What's the best way that organizations can advertise that? Because anyone can do that. You don't have to ask the manager if you can do that, I don't think. So like, how can they communicate that in a way, like in job ads, for example, or in their marketing beyond in-person events?
Yeah, so marketing it in person at any kind of job fair is definitely a great way to do it. And then another separate way that our recruiter that is specifically doing med-surg at my health system has been doing it is that he's been coming up to our units and just real quick, just 5 to 10 seconds of our time, because he knows that we're busy, is getting just little snippets of us saying like why we like our unit, why we like our environment. Some will say like our patients are etc. or my teammates are etc. And getting little clips of us just being together, or even using some footage and pictures that we already have. A lot of units or health systems will do outings together. So if you can just have a quick chat with some of the nurses on the unit that you're recruiting for and say, hey, do you guys do anything outside of work together? So many do, because that's team building exercises for us. He made a little montage video of the acute neuroscience unit. If I can get him to send it to me, I will share it with you, Adam. And it just is basically us, hanging out at the park like we were earlier this summer, us on the unit kind of goofing around in the break room, and then a couple of just quick snippets of us saying, I love our patient population, or I've learned so much, or, I've been here for 6 years, and etc., whatever. And then kind of putting that out, whether it's on LinkedIn or on Facebook or on the health system's Instagram reels, in that way to show that a lot of the nurses joining the workforce are younger, they're millennial, they're Gen Z, and so presenting it in that more flashy way is a much greater tool to reel them in, as opposed to a typical job ad.
Yeah.
These days nobody wants to go to their job to work. It's a part of your lifestyle. It's kind of a different way that people view their jobs. So selling it in a fashion that is more about, you're not really just coming here to work, you're also coming here to join a family, to join a team, can be very helpful.
Within units and within teams, obviously you want to work alongside your friends, but you also don't want to be short-staffed. So what we're trying to do here is appeal to the interests of nurses within the unit, so they can go out and find nurses to come in. So don't want to feel burnt out. What other sort of more personal, you could say selfish things that the nurses in your unit or other units experience could people appeal to encourage them to refer people and refer nurses into the unit?
Right, yeah. So like you were saying, they don't want to be short-staffed. So when we have nurses that have friends or loved ones, or they just happen to know people that are going through nursing school, we'll always tell them, why don't you have them shadow? Now that is something that you have to get approved, because there's liability in having another person on the floor. But we've had lots of even high school students come and just shadow the nurses just to see what it's like. A lot of our older nurses will have, children or teenagers that are looking into applying to college. They don't know what they want to do just yet, and we are allowing them pre-COVID, allowing them into the environment to see what it's like, and encouraging them to at least start looking into nursing schools, etc. Another big thing that I really wanted to talk about was a discovery program. So a lot of times you'll get nurses that don't really know what they want to do in the nursing field, or what kind of population that they want to work with. And so we encourage the nurses that we do have, and we do it ourselves as well, and saying, well, you can discover that as you go along. If you come and you join my med-surg unit, and this is something that a nurse manager can approve as well, she can, or he can, kind of set you up with the other units as well, so that you can work a shift here or there in different environments to, discover where you want to be at. And it gives multiple units another person to fill those positions. And then what you have happening is that this nurse is making these connections and friendships all along the way throughout the health system. And then he or she can be brought in that way. So doing the discovery program can also help your med-surg floors. If someone that's coming out of grad school and saying, I really want to be in the ICU, that's great, but our ICUs are kind of looking for someone that has experience right now. Can I get you to be on one of our med-surg units until then? And then by that point, they've been there for a year, and maybe they're just falling in love with that team, and they're building these friendships and connections, and they might want to stay. Another way to pull them in is besides a capital referral bonus, or having them set up their schedules to work together, is to do more like a job fairs type of scenario. And then we can do virtual fairs as well. But in these scenarios, we are making it more fair-like, in that they can have anyone come in, if they know a nurse that they used to work with a long time ago, or someone that they graduated nursing school with who maybe is working at a different health system now, say, oh, well, I've got this kind of like a work outing or this picnic or whatever, where they're recruiting, and I heard that they might be even doing these referral bonuses. Why don't you just come and hang out with me for the afternoon and check it out? Then maybe we can work together at the same hospital again. How fun would that be?
And would that work like virtually as well?
Yeah, so we used to do them in person all of the time. And we'd go out to the park and set up a big tent and grill and all that kind of real fun stuff. And now we've had to, ship it down to the virtual platform. One way that you can do it to make it a little bit more interactive, as opposed to just something like this or something like Zoom, is that you can set it up in hubs. So we have done it we have a large campus. So we have the privilege to set up different hubs, different tents that have max capacities at them. And we'll just have maybe one presenter at each tent, and it's, a recruiter for med surg under one, and then, a recruiter for an ICU over here. And then they can kind of go to different booths, essentially, or different hubs. And that way there's less people, in the capacity, to be COVID friendly.
Yeah. Okay. So you also mentioned beforehand, I'll just get it here, that you wanted to talk about unique ways of adding value to positions. I was curious as to what that meant. We want to find out more about that.
Yeah. So we've kind of touched on them already about not just doing the capital bonuses, but also doing work-life balance centric bonuses. So the adding value to a position and saying, well, once you've been at this position for 6 months or a year, however you and the nurse manager decide to make it, then you no longer have to work XYZ, or at that point, then we'd like to make you into a charge nurse, or you would have the option to train up to progressive level care beds, or, at that point you would have the option to maybe check out some of our ICUs and shadow them in that capacity, or also, educational opportunities as well, certifying opportunities. Certifications, depending on what the nurse is wanting to certify in, they do range in price, but in comparison to what these healthcare systems spend for anything, it's really chump change. So if, a nurse is coming in and saying, one day I'd like to be an OR nurse, but I don't have any experience as just, a bedside nurse yet, say, oh, well, after a year, you put that time in, we are happy to pay for that certification for you. And then we can hook you up with a job in ROR. So adding value to the position in those ways. Some nurses might not even think about those types of values. Some nurses might be looking for them or already asking for them. So offering them right off the bat and saying, what kind of future opportunities might you be looking for that we can help recruit you with can be really valuable.
Yeah. So exploring the person they want to be.
Yeah, in a sense, I think that the trend is really changing with bedside nursing, particularly inpatient. We very rarely do we see nurses staying at the bedside until they're able to retire. It's really just not sustainable. So most of the nurses that you're going to see coming in, especially if they're in the age range from 18 to 30, they're going to be looking ahead already. They're going to be thinking, I don't want to be a bedside nurse forever. Maybe I want to be a nurse practitioner, or maybe I want to be administrative, etc. And if you can say, I have the key to that door, but you have to put in at least a couple of years here to get your, bedside experience. Do that with me here, and then, I can help you with the steps to getting to where you want to be. If it's a health system that already has education system programs set in, make sure that you are really highlighting that. Certification system set in, or any type of education that the health system or the nurse manager may be able to offer them. I would really be boosting those when I'm putting out the job opportunities to people.
Yeah, I think that's important, especially if they're earlier in their career, because they want to know what the future is going to be like. We have a couple of questions. If anybody would like to submit a question, just comment it on whatever channel you're watching. Someone asked, so they work in a hospital, and sometimes at interview stage, people aren't suitable. And she's wondering, is it a good idea to offer them the opportunity to refer a friend? Do you think that's appropriate for people who aren't currently staff, for them to be referring, or think it's only appropriate for staff?
No, I think it's a great idea. Get them from wherever you can, really. Even if it's, this is totally true. I've had a patient who told me, oh, my granddaughter is in nursing school right now. And I have said, ma'am, we are always hiring. If you think that if your stay here has been hireable, please tell your granddaughter to come up here and give us a call.
Another question which kind of links to that is, someone would like to know, how can I encourage a culture of referring? And I think they mean stuff like that, where perhaps now they just have this referral scheme that none of the nurses know or care about. How can they turn those nurses into people like you who are whispering sweet nothings in old ladies' ears to get them to text their granddaughter?
Right. Well, first you have to make sure that the nurses that you're asking to refer people actually like the unit that they're trying to recruit to. We've had a recruiter who gave one nurse a call, a nurse on a med-surg unit that was really having a hard time retaining nurses. And she was applying to the adjacent ICU. And when he was calling her to work out her acceptance of the position, he just straight up asked her, what is going on that unit? Why can't they keep staff? And she, let him know, well, we've had a really big issue with our management. Our management has been turning over, and we've had an interim nurse manager, and that's kind of been making everyone feel uncomfortable or kind of apprehensive about, the future of the unit. And so people are kind of jumping ship in a sense because of this. And so that gave the recruiter a little bit of an edge in that, well, now he knows why people are leaving, and you can twist that into a better message in order to bring new people in, or to encourage the staff that's currently there not to jump ship and to bring more in. And by saying there is an opportunity for the environment to grow with a new leader, we found that using that message highlighted that now the environment's temperament is more in the bedside nurse's control. The nurse manager that we did end up bringing in on the full-time basis, we were able to kind of build an understanding that the nurses have an idea of what their environment ideally is like, and they're able to work together to build it to be in such a manner that they're happy there. And once they felt more comfortable, then it was just as easy as saying, like, wow, I'm really enjoying my workplace. I want to bring more people in so that it continues to be even better. So it's a hard task to ask a recruiter to build a culture of referment, because that is so heavily laid in the management style or just the entire climate of the unit. So if you are able to, I know many of us are still working virtually or from home, but if you are able to get even on that unit, or even just talk to the nurses that are on that unit and say, hey, what are the highlights of the unit, or maybe even what are the pitfalls of that unit, so that I can know what types of messages I should be sending out about the unit. It was so helpful. We saw some really good things with that. Just the fact that in this scenario, it was that they were apprehensive about the future. And we said, well, no, that just means that there is so much potential for the future. If it's something different, where maybe the patient population is so heavy, in the neuroscience area, we have lots of people with Alzheimer's, dementia, traumatic brain injuries, a lot of people that just cannot control their behaviors. So we have a hard time keeping staff because they don't want to deal with the crazy. And we market that as an opportunity to develop your behavioral health skills, psychiatric nursing, mental health awareness, all these buzzwords that are especially our younger generations really tend to love. Marketing that in a way that says, you might be a new nurse, or you might be a nurse that's tired of your environment. We've got a really exciting environment. it might be challenging to some, but we're willing to and capable of helping you build up to be able to take care of some of the most vulnerable patients that there are. And when we market it that way, we get tons, especially of the new graduates wanting to be with us. And I just had another thought. Know what types of patients your unit can take, or the unit that you're trying to recruit to can take. So because the neuroscience population very often has spinal cord injuries, people that are paralyzed, we're the only unit outside of the ICU that can take patients on mechanical ventilation. And we get nurses applying to us from right out of the gate from nursing school just because they want that. They want to work with patients that are on ventilation and on trachs, but maybe they're a little bit too nervous to go directly to the ICU out of school, or maybe they just don't want to, they want to be able to communicate with their patients, but they also want to take care of very high level patients. You can market it in that way to say, work with difficult patients in a better way that is just work with crazy patients.
Yeah. So instead of avoiding the crazy.
Right.
Yeah. Because crazy is like just a term we made up to describe a behavior. So if we can describe the behavior in a different way, like something which will result in you becoming a better nurse, then we're like controlling the narrative. Then I think that's good.
Yeah. So basically, to summarize, know what the unit's nurses are really happy about and know what they're not so happy about, and then use your creativity to spin them both in the positives.
Yeah. That's a good note to end on. Thank you so much for coming, Melissa.
Yes.
I really appreciate it, and I think I've learned a lot. I took a lot of notes, and I will make a summary of this for everyone tomorrow. If anybody would like to chat to myself or Patrick, just message one of us on LinkedIn, and we can add you to the room. But for now, that's all from me, and I'm going to hand it over to Patrick to close things off. So thanks very much, Melissa.
Yes.
And I'll see you next time.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Melissa. That was very interesting. Lots of great information. I'm sure everyone really appreciated hearing, and will have some ideas to go away with and work with. So I want to let everyone know if you registered with us for this through LinkedIn, we will try to get the recording out to you fairly soon. We record all of our webinars and we share them with everyone who's registered. So watch for that. If you're particularly interested in receiving it, do send us a note and we'll make sure we don't miss you in getting that out. We try to host webinars at least every 2 weeks, always on the topic of nurse recruitment. So stay tuned for updates through all of our various social media about what's coming up next. And again, connect with us on LinkedIn so we can invite you to those as well. And I posted earlier the link to our Nurse Recruitment Secrets Facebook group. So please, again, feel free to join us there. We'd love to have you there and sharing some information and ideas on nurse recruitment. If you don't have the link, you could just search Nurse Recruitment Secrets group on Facebook and join us there. So I think that is all for now. Stay tuned. And for those of you, again, who want to chat with Adam and I, send us a message and we will add you to our chat so we can have a conversation about nurse recruitment. Thanks, everyone.